Howdy y'all, first episode of a new series, Entry Explanation, where I discuss entry point related topics like the new cutscene Sunset. The new cutscene infuriates me for both story and personal reasons, but I won't include the personal ones since they're irrelevant. For context, link to the scene is in the description. I'm not even going to explain what happened, I'm getting straight into it. No, I'm not going to say, not my sparrow, because that's stupid. You see, the sparrows insisting that the deaths of Rose and Finch were not Jackdaw's fault when they 100% were. Jackdaw was a piece of shit throughout the Shadow War. He used his loved ones because he was just so angry he couldn't see clearly. He treated everyone like shit and harmed innocents. I don't think Jackdaw is a bad person, just an angry one. He let his anger get in the way of his family, resulting in the emotional harm and real deaths of his loved ones. Jackdaw should not be defended. He does not deserve it. I love him, but he did all of that shit in the Shadow War, and that's still unacceptable. Sparrow still naively thinking Jackdaw was not at fault at the war because she's insane. Because she's insanely pure and loyal, would be fine if the story itself wasn't acting like, oh poor Jackdaw, it was not your fault, when it was his fault. Jackdaw did horrible, horrible things. He does not deserve any slack for his actions. I'm not talking about killing thousands during the Shadow War. I mean that Jackdaw used his loved ones. He put his own thirst for victory above them. Jackdaw still cared for them, but that hardly matters when you see how he neglected them. The fact that Sparrow still believes he's innocent is just the purity of a child, and that's a compliment, but it's both a good and bad trait of hers. This scene would have been so much better if she had said, I forgive you instead, or if the cutscene just made it clearer that Jackdaw should feel guilty. He was absolutely horrible to everyone he knew. I still love entry points as Shadow, I really do, but honestly, I expected better from them. It is completely horrible how Jackdaw is being defended here. Again, the issue isn't that Sparrow is defending him, that's just a part of her character and personality. It's the fact that the story isn't making it clear that the director wasn't the only bad guy in the Shadow War. He wasn't the only one who used people. Jackdaw acted atrocious too. I don't care if there's some secret hidden away that goes, oh, Jackdaw actually is at fault. They're still publicly presenting that Jackdaw is a victim when he is a cause. Little kids who play entry point and are unaware of the lock are going to take Jackdaw's side when he really did bad stuff. As much as I love Jackdaw, I can honestly say he deserves to feel bad, because if he didn't, that would be shitty of him. Jackdaw deserves to suffer the consequences of his own actions, aka the deaths of his loved ones. Unless I find further evidence of anything different, I will never accept Sunset as canon. I hate how it's victimizing Jackdaw. Yes, he is a man in pain, but don't forget that he was also the bad guy once. In fact, I am going to rewrite Sunset the way it should have been done, at least how I think it should have been done. Maybe in the future I can animate this fan-made script, but for now, I'll just tell it. I know Sunset is supposed to be the aftermath, but here I'll be flipping it on its head. I guess it's less of rewriting Sunset and more of creating a new scene entirely and putting it before it so it makes Sunset actually acceptable. The Shadow War had recently ended. Jackdaw is sitting alone in a room, maybe his old office or his own room, feeling mass amounts of guilt. The door opens as Rivera enters his room. His room is dark as light from outside the room pours into it. This would be symbolism that Rivera is the light, the good side, trying to reach out to Jackdaw, who's in a dark and bad place. Rivera starts off by explaining Sparrow had vented to her about his mistreatment. Jackdaw is already guilty and aware he screwed up, but that won't save him from a lecture and badass monologue from the Queen herself. Rivera begins to list all the awful shit he's done, how his negligence got almost all of his loved ones killed. Jackdaw has been ignoring Sparrow and putting the Shadow War above all her safety and happiness. The doc absolutely goes off on him, further proving her points with more examples. WREN, Rose, the freelancer, they're all dead because of him and his negligence. It's a miracle that Sparrow is alive, for crying out loud. Okay, WREN no one really cared about since he hurt people too, but Jackdaw still cared about him. It was proven from his pictures on his desk in the shallow grave he dug, which I would have used as evidence that he cared for WREN too in the Jackdaw theory time, but I was too slow when it's already been made public now, so there's no point. I love the pictures and it's the only good part about Sunset in my opinion. Since Rivera is mature, she won't put herself in the wrong too by insulting Jackdaw in the process. She only says what she needs to say, and she says it firmly. He let his anger blind himself, and then Rose followed his tracks out of loyalty, and so did the freelancer out of loyalty to Rose, grief, and anger. And when they began to die, he didn't stop. He didn't even take that as a sign of, oh no, maybe I'm a piece of shit. He used it to fuel his own anger even more, therefore critically endangering Sparrow and Finch even more. Jackdaw is sitting in guilt and has no rebuttal or excuse. He knows she's right. Rivera then explains she didn't come solely to rub the pain in. She also came to demand he either sharpens up or leave, because if my Sparrow theory is correct, Sparrow doesn't have a family to run back to. Jackdaw is all she has, so we better believe he's becoming the real father figure she deserves, or else Rivera will do it herself. It is insane that Sparrow and everyone else has put up with his behavior. He does not even deserve her. Despite everything, despite endangering her and neglecting her feelings, Sparrow still loved Jackdaw. She still cared about him. She still followed him. And now, she still forgives him. She just instantly forgives him despite all his terrible shit. That is the insane loyalty, purity, and kindness of Sparrow. Rose followed him too, all because she cared, but she didn't get such a happy ending. Sparrow is the only one of her, and Jackdaw needs to start treating her like it. Rivera finally leaves. Skipping forward in time a little, Sparrow is by herself by the graves. Jackdaw approaches her and offers a real, genuine apology, an acknowledgement of his actions, and a promise to be better. Sparrow being Sparrow instantly forgives him, and the conversation ends with a hug. Jackdaw soon notices that Rivera is watching some distance away, and she gives a slight smile of approval. She turns around and walks away into the sun, alone. Her job here is done. For now, that's the end of the scene, but maybe more will be added. I've actually had this scene in mind long before sunset. I don't remember which theory time it was, likely the Sparrow or the first Rivera one, but you can hear me mention this headcanon scene at the end of one of those. I feel as if this scene would eliminate the huge problem in Sunset and actually make it alright. I am a little sad that Sparrow grew up a little, but it is what it is. I'll get used to it. Besides, it's good symbolism as to how Sparrow has moved on from the war. Meanwhile, Jackdaw still lingers, which by the way, his cabin is the most bare-ass house I have ever seen. The only amount of life in there are those pictures. And the picture of Jackdaw and the director when they were still young friends, aka before the director turned bad, which definitely happened because there's no way he waited that long to use Jackdaw as a pawn. Their hair was still a dull brown in that picture. Anyways, it signifies that he is holding on to the past still. He still feels guilt. He's fantasizing about having fun times with his kids, and he misses when the director was still his good friend. End of rant. That's all I really have to say about Sunset. Maybe I'll animate the scene someday, but honestly, motivation is hard to scrap together and I procrastinate, so probably not. Well, see y'all.